Hi everyone, how's everybody doing? I think we're the last panel between us and lunch, and so I know it's been a long morning. But again, thank you for GCV for inviting me and putting together this deep tech panel. I think what's been interesting over the last number of years, especially from the corporate perspective, there's been a transition where if you were a telco, you were really interested in telecom-related tech, or if you're an auto OEM, auto tech, et cetera, and now, in addition to trying to fill the gaps in your industry based upon your roadmaps, now this new wave after wave of emerging new technologies is impacting every vertical industry and changing business functions and perspectives. And so today's topic is really to talk about these deep technology areas that, whether you're a telco, an auto OEM, is really fundamentally transforming and disrupting the businesses. And so as CVCs, we have an obligation to not only try to support the existing businesses, but also to help the corporates and the business units deal with these fundamental disruptions that are driven by all these new emerging technologies. So what we're going to talk about today is, again, we have to talk about AI as one of the main transformational disruptions that are happening across the board. And then there's multiple other deep technologies that we're all focused on. And we thought we'd put together a panel of representative corporates that are obviously on the cutting edge of their industries and talk a little bit about what are their definitions of deep tech, what are they focused on, how as a CVC organization are they trying to support their business units and motherships. And specifically, I'll ask each of the organizations represented on the panel today, ABB, Sony, and LG, specific areas around the deep technology areas that they're focused on. So sorry for the long preamble, but I'm going to open it up to our panelists to introduce themselves, their organizations, and their roles in the organizations. Chao?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thanks, everyone. I'm Chao from ABB. Maybe some of you already know that we have a decentralized working model, that we have multiple venture teams in the organization. Some of them belong to the business areas, working with them, and I'm at the group level, basically provide a little bit of counterweight of over the time horizon we look at, and the energy, the scope that we look at. So we are a little bit trying to be the ears and the eyes for the business, so to provide a little bit different perspective with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Kaz, please.
Okay, I'm Kaz. I'm heading up Sony CVC, and I'm also responsible for the business incubation at headquarters side. For example, the Web3, crypto space, and also the local 5G. That's, I think, a little bit different from other CVCs. And getting back to CVC activities, our investment focus area, that we have 5 investment theses. Our investment thesis, there are 5 sectors. The one, definitely, the deep tech, and then the climate, and entertainment, and fintech, Web3. And the last one is enterprise, service type of solutions for the startup investment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Dong-soo?
Yeah, very nice to meet you. My name is Dong-soo Kim. I'm the CEO of LG Technology Ventures. Actually, I've been in the CVC space for over 20 years now, and as long as I've been doing CVC, I've actually known Jay, so that's how long we go back.
You can join the 20-year member club with Gen and a bunch of others.
All right, yeah, I did join, I started my career with Samsung, of course, but I joined LG 7 years ago as a founding CEO. Back then, LG didn't have, was investing out of the balance sheet of each company, but they wanted an LG group level CVC. So 7 years later, now we are managing about $880 million. We're all headquartered in Silicon Valley. We usually invest Series A or later, $1 to $10 million ticket size. Area of investment is very broad because of the breadth of the business that LG is in. So we do everything from materials to electronics to enterprise software, content, service, and even some biotech.
Great. Well, thank you for the intro. As I mentioned earlier, deep tech is very broad across the board, from biomaterials to space tech and everything in between. So we'd love to ask each of the panelists, for your respective organizations, how do you define kind of deep tech? And among these various deep tech areas, what is front and center in terms of priorities today?
Okay. I apologize, I have to give a very general answer to that as well, unfortunately, because like I said, we fully empower our business unit to make decisions. So they are flexible. I mean, they have decision power basic to go out and define what a deep tech for themselves based on the use cases, based on the customer client bases and the business they're doing. So that's why, I mean, in general, I can say it can be any functionalities or capability that are close to our core, then can find us new use cases or find new customers, new business. I think it's very general. I can give a little bit more examples later, but I think for now, that's what we define deep tech for ABB.
Okay, so deep tech is pretty much everything.
We have a large portfolio.
Okay, let's try to do better next.
Okay.
If you can help it narrow down a bit.
Yeah, in our definition on the deep tech, let's say the semiconductor, chip and materials, and AI, blockchain, and quantum computing, those things.
See, I like that. See, that's very specific.
This is how it's going to be.
No.
So for me, deep tech is any technology that's based on scientific innovation. So it could be either physical science, it can be life science, or even computer science. All right. And for LG, I mean, obviously we are both in manufacturing, but also in consumer space. And so obviously, when you make anything, it requires a lot of scientific innovation to support that. So I think this deep tech is just front and center, especially for
that. Was really generic, but sounded a lot better, right? Okay, great. No, this is great. So I think what I was going to ask next is, again, in your roles, and I understand the way that ABB operates is much more decentralized.
Yep.
You know, blockchain, decentralization, and maybe perhaps in Sony's case and LG's case, it's a little more top-down, corporate-driven. But basically, I'd love to understand how each of your organizations are adding value to the business units and the corporate level. And if you could share with us one or two specific examples of a startup in a particular technology category that you've been able to bring value to the mothership.
Okay. One example from ABB, it could be actually, for example, we look into a solid-state transformer. So it's hardware, but it's going to be very compact, very high throughput, so that it can potentially completely change how data center is designed and operates. So this is one example of deep tech for us. At the group level, then of course we let our venture teams associated with the business to do a lot of groundwork. We try to provide intelligence, the insights from the market by our daily engagement with funds, with other partners in the ecosystem, right? So that we can provide them information timely, and so that they can make the informed decision when the time comes, and when they make an important decision.
In this case, was this an opportunity where your business units requested your support to find a company in this particular category, or was it something that you brought to the business units that they perhaps had not thought about?
Yep. Ideally, it should be both ways.
Of course.
But I mean, in reality, probably it's more we approach them because a lot of them are very busy.
Right.
We're serving the business. So if we see something from the market, we'll try to propose. And of course, it's not necessarily a top-down process decision, right? So we work together, right? We discuss, we align, and to find out what's the next best steps.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Kaz?
I'm now taking example of the blockchain technology, and in January, we launched 3 services across globe. One is the layer 2 services where we started, which is called Sonium chain, the Sony chain. And then also that we have been providing application services to group companies and also the third parties. And then last one is the crypto exchange. 2 years ago, we acquired a crypto exchange in Japan, and then we completed to rebuild up the system, exchange operation, and then we renamed it to S.Blocks. Somehow similar to the Sony's name, and then we really want to build up. I mean, the business group really want to build up. I mean, the ecosystem in entertainment by using a blockchain technology, so that tokenization processes, fan engagement, and also the creators economy. We really want to care about two sides, creators and the fan engagement stuff. So by using blockchain and AI, so somehow we really want to the business unit would like to differentiate from Bitcoin or Ethereum stuff, but especially in entertainment space, gaming, music, or film, or animation, the blockchain or AI should be utilized to upgrade the services.
No, I think when initially blockchain fever was around several years ago, I remember speaking to somebody from IBM who was on the forefront of trialing a lot of these blockchain-driven projects with hundreds of corporations, and apparently none of them really stuck. So it sounds like Sony may be one of the few examples of a major corporate adopting blockchain technology. That's amazing. Can I ask a couple of follow-ups? One was this initiative driven by the corporate to the business units? And secondly, did you have a startup partner that brought, you acquired an exchange, but was there a startup partner that you brought in to help you with the blockchain development?
So the project itself was started in the business group, particular business group, but it was moved to headquarters project. And then from as CVC, we prepared the fund to encourage the application players to develop their own apps on our chain. So we have a particular fund, which is called Spark Fund.
Right.
So the CVCs are now investing in the application developers, and then, but at the same time, business groups are now upgraded to the headquarters, the one with division.
That's great. So building an ecosystem.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Dong-soo?
Yeah. So how do we add value with deeptech to our business unit? So. Again, I think the role of the business development team is very important. We do have 6 people business development in-house that interact very, very regularly with with the business units and R&D centers to understand what areas of technology they're looking for, and based on that, we source companies and try to create synergies. So one example would be, for example, on the material discovery space. Both for batteries and displays. Innovative materials is really important for you to differentiate. So we've sourced multiple companies, for example, in the battery space, but this starts very early because we want these companies to be engaged with our battery guys very early on, so the business units can test some of these materials, provide feedback, and which kind of guides their development instead of trying to just source materials right away and deploy that. I think in deep tech that kind of model rarely works. So you have to have patience, invest early, and just continue to manage the partnership.
Right. One of the deep tech disruptions clearly across the board, we talked about AI, and I'd like to kind of focus around particularly AI adoption across at the corporate level, specific business units, whether it's manufacturing or business functions. There's a lot of hype around AI. At the same time, I've noticed that big corporations have been somewhat hesitant to actually adopt as much. There's sensitivity around data. I think early days of ChatGPT, there was like a widely reported incident where a Samsung engineer had put in literally some very sensitive data up into ChatGPT, and then the entire organization was banned using ChatGPT, which is the case for a lot of corporations because that data will be actually released to who know where. And so I'd love to understand kind of each of your situations, how you are thinking about AI adoption, and if there are particular implementation cases that you've seen so far in your organizations. Whoever's willing to go first. Don't
Yeah, so I think there are multi-facets of the AI. Everybody, talks about ChatGPT and robots and all that. But if you look at it, there are also different AIs that are just addressing individual verticals that are very specialized for that use. For example, R&D can benefit greatly from AI. There are tools for that, like whether it be material discovery or drug discovery. There are AI tools for that, which is even design. For example, we invested in this company that uses AI to do circuit design that it takes into account all these nonlinear effects that is very hard to model using equations. So I think if you just look at different functions and try to find the right solution for that particular function, I think you'll see a lot of options out there.
Yeah, I mean, Tongsu, maybe I could ask a follow-up. My understanding is LG is one of the few corporates that actually has developed your own LLM.
Yeah.
Right. So if you could talk about that, where is that in terms of not only development, but potentially implementation and use cases within the organization?
Yeah. So again, that question begs a discussion. Why is LG developing its own LLM where there's so many LLMs out there? And, so at the end of the day, that our particular LLM is very specified to do certain things really well. One is the Korean language. So again, I mean, all these general LLMs can do some work in, for example, in Korean, but it's not as specialized and it's not as good. And also, LG spent a lot of time to train the LLM using scientific journals and more and data that is more concrete and based in science rather than just searching the whole web. So I think it works really well for those kind of applications. They've been trying to promote that within LG, so different business units or R&D centers can use that. They had some success, but at the end of the day, though, each of the business units have their liberty to use whatever LLM they want to use. So that's that's that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Kaz, in the case of Sony, clearly, based upon your businesses, Gen AI has to be front and center as one of the major applications. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think, it's quite similar to G's case. I mean, each business unit should have, should be responsible for the making, choosing, what kind of Gen AI they would prefer. So, and then the headquarters will not force them to use this Gen AI, but for the operational processes, especially in corporate, the framework and one package would be a really key to standardize operations, especially in corporate functions. So, and on a periodical basis, all corporate divisions should report the status on what to do or what kind of a timeline that everybody would like to use so that to improve the current operational processes. That's what we are doing in the corporate side, but business side all depends on the business units.
I see.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah, for ABB, I think it's very much use cases driven.
Right.
So since we're decentralized, every business, every function is responsible sort of for exploring the AI capability and find out the room to improve and the benefit so that they can benefit from it. So that's why internally from each function and business we have certain champion from the organization or some representative or even technical people who know about AI and enthusiastic about AI. So they come together. We have a forum for all those people, and so it's a very dynamic forum. People exchange ideas. People even organize hackathon just to look for the opportunities in this case. And once they find the use cases, they are open to talk to different partners potentially and find out really map out the next steps, for example. So this is how we do at the moment at ABB. So it's very similar to, they are, each business function are, more responsible.
Because of ABB's business focus, I'm assuming industrial AI is a big part of it, manufacturing related, automation, etc.
Exactly.
The main themes?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it can be, like I said, my previous example is hardware, right? So related to the manufacturing. And then it can be also just simply help our client optimize energy consumption, manage energy, store the energy, and even trade energy, all this kind of a little bit extra steps that we can offer to them. This can certainly be a use cases for AI, right? So that's why in the future, so that's why there are business looking into this direction, for example.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
This is probably a topic a little bit off script, but I'm just going to ask the question anyway, since I'm the moderator. There's so many areas in deep tech, and quite frankly, AI is obvious now. Automation, robotics is obvious. Blockchain is amazing that you've implemented, but it's been around now for several years. What would you say are the new emerging deep technology areas that your organizations should pay attention to? Because there's a lot of reports around advances in quantum computing, fusion energy development, so on and so forth. So I'm just curious, are there any new emerging areas that may not be fully implemented, but you're kind of paying attention to that's on the horizon? Anybody?
Well, good. Okay. I think probably could be fair. Especially I think new, or emerging technologies would appear. We really need energy. So we need to care about energy. The technologies, how we could, utilize energies in a more efficient way. I think that's really key to keep the current ecosystem, to grow the market. So regardless of any software or hardware companies, so the energy I think is a key.
Right.
In our category, that's categorized as the climate tech.
I see.
Yeah.
And are you also looking at emerging energy generation technologies, including fusion technology and other?
Yeah, fusion technology a little bit, but somehow it takes quite a long time.
Project too.
So as fund corporate VC, we have 10 years, tenor. So it's a kind of the maximum period for the investment purpose. So somehow we really need to be careful when we invest in the climate tech or deep tech, because it takes longer to materialize everything. Yeah.
Right.
Let me add to the energy, actually. So everybody talks about, when you say energy, about energy generation, fusion, wind, solar. I think an area that is underappreciated is in terms of energy storage, management, and distribution. I think the current, obviously, we all know current infrastructure doesn't support the added requirement for energy, and especially if you have clean sources of generation like wind and solar, which is, it just doesn't generate energy all the time, right? So you have to be able to manage these things, store it, also try to control manage the demand a little bit. For example, like EV charging. Why, for example, in California, you have low rates right at midnight. So what happens is everybody programs their cars to charge right at midnight, so you have a sudden demand surge, which puts incredible load on the grid. So if you just have to be smart about matching the demand with the supply of electricity. And so all that requires a lot of thinking, maybe some AI, but also working with not just electric companies, but also maybe for in case of car charging with the automotive companies, government, you name it. It's a lot of coordination. So I think it's an area that's really ripe for disruption right now.
That's great. And how about ABB?
Just very quickly pile on. I'm surprised. We're talking about the same thing because energy, power grid is almost like home turf for us, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It was all designed for you to be spotlighted.
I'm really happy that we share this.
This was all part of our scenario.
Yeah. Exactly. I totally agree, right? So we had this issue about it, and then we have to sort of the current design and the grid and the infrastructure is not necessarily cannot probably cope very well with the new type of power generation and all these big trends. So probably we would have a lot of new design or refurbishment. I don't know, even just refresh the whole power grid across the world. So that's probably the project that's going to take quite a while, right?
Right.
So that's why we also share this sentiment as well at ABB, and we believe this will be a huge business opportunity in the future.
Makes sense. Yeah. Maybe the last question that I'll ask, and if we have time, I'll open it up for questions from the audience. We're here in London. We've just sat through a number of amazing presentations about the technology that's coming out of the UK, more broadly Europe, especially out of the universities. And my impression is, compared to other technology areas, especially in deep tech, a lot of it is coming out of R&D, university research, private organizations and whatnot. I'd love to understand, have you seen a trend shifting towards more looking broadly at the ecosystem beyond just startups from universities and whatnot, and we're seeing more and more spin-outs of that? Is that something that you're paying more attention to?
I think you have to pay attention to all the great innovation that's coming out of the universities. I mean, UK have probably some of the best universities in the world.
Yeah, especially now that university R&D in the US is pretty much shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Not yet, but maybe it's getting there, but it's not. So, I think it's a must. And also the universities UK universities are doing a lot better job of trying to, take the scientific discovery, turn into an idea, a business idea, and promoting the spin-outs and all that. So and also try to promote some of these companies outside. I mean, I was in Oxford on Monday, and again, Oxford Science Enterprise, they done a fantastic job of curating some of these companies and presenting to the corporate investors. So definitely an area that we want to keep an eye on. We don't have an office in the UK right now, but I'm thinking about it. Because of just all this innovation.
Yeah, Jim, you might want to help to think about it more clearly.
I had some talks with Paul, so he's going to help us out.
Yeah, Kaz?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, the CVC, we have a UK presence,
right,
and Sweden and Europe, and so I'm very comfortable to have such a local presence, including UK, and then especially academia part. I mean, definitely Oxbridge we can't ignore. Mm-hmm. So that's why I visited Oxford as well, to set up the office there. Then I'm now planning to set up the office in Cambridge. Somehow we really need the triangle locations in UK. So London, Oxford, Cambridge, those are the really key for sourcing activities and investment activities.
That's right. Yeah. And ABB's, your home turf is in Europe, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, also, like I said, I mean, at a group level, I really see ourselves as a counterweight, right? So in the business, by nature, they are more focusing on the core business and with a little bit shorter time horizon. So at a group, we really want to promote a little bit different thinking, different perspective. Of course, university is where oftentimes is where the ideas are from. So that's why I was as well in Oxford this time. I'm really happy GCV provided this opportunity, right? So that we can get close to them and really hear from them and see what's really the fresh thing out of the lab, out of the most intelligent people on this planet. So definitely we will, from our team perspective, we will try our best to learn from them and talk to them as often as possible, so that we can feed this learning and happening to the business colleagues, so that they stay current, so they don't forget about their stuff.
Got it. Yeah? I think we have time for literally one question. Oh, there we go. Thank you for questioning us.
Mm-hmm. Good afternoon. Jasdeep Soni from InMotion Ventures, Jaguar Land Rover. Thank you, gentlemen, for a fascinating conversation. This question is actually for Dong-Soo. I was actually quite surprised, as I suppose everybody else was, that LG has built their own LLM. Mm-hmm. But even more surprised that the business units don't have to use that LLM. In fact, they could choose what they want to do. I was just wondering, does LG Technology Ventures then also have sort of a venture building arm where you could commercialize this LLM, especially because it's not really driving any strategic sort of benefit for all the business units, so you could commercialize that outside?
Currently, we don't. I mean, actually, we've been approached by our business units and R&D centers how we can help them commercialize some of the technology. I mean, even LG Electronics, out of their R&D center, there are a whole bunch of technology that they would like to license to outside, right? And we can provide advice, but that's not our core mission right now.
Thanks.
Great. Well, now it's lunchtime. If you can join me thanking our panelists.